Okay, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's Planning and Environmental Protection Committee. Firstly, could I welcome all the members of the public and the press who are here today and those that have joined us online. A few housekeeping rules. If any of the members of public in attendance need to use the facilities, they're located out the door and on the landing either side. If there's a fire alarm, we're not expecting any tests, so please leave the building by your nearest fire exit and make your way to the Cathedral Concourse, which is the area where we'll join up and do the roll call. My name's Councillor Chris Harper. I'm your chair today, and I'm joined by a cross-party group of councillors, Councillors Hiller, Rush, Sharp, Jamil, Hogg, Iqbal, Jones, Hussain, Bond and Warren are joining me today, along with officers from different areas within the council and support from Democratic Services. We'll move on to item 1. Item 1 is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We have no apologies for absence.
Thank you. Item 2 is declarations of interest. No, none of those, thank you. Item 3 is a declaration to make representation as ward councillor. No, none of those, thank you. Item 4 then relates to the minutes of a previous meeting. This is the 13th of December 2022. Do I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Councillor Hogg proposing, are they correct?
No, I have an amendment to make.
Oh, right, okay.
So on page 8, it was said that there was the vote was taken and it was 9 for and 2 against. I believe, and I have reviewed the video, that it was 9 for and 2 abstentions.
Okay, good. We'll get that amended. Thank you very much. Councillor Hiller. So Councillor proposes with the amendment. Are you happy to second? Yes, are we all agreed? Great, thank you very much. Item 5 then relates to development control and enforcement matters. Item 5.1 relates to Clare Lodge and 8 Lincoln Road at Linton, Peterborough. And we presented for the first time by Molly Hood. Thank you, Molly, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, this is the first item at Clare Lodge in Glinton. The proposal is for 3 separate extensions to the existing building on site, and I'll just run through what these three extensions are. We've got a 2-storey extension to form new educational facilities, a single-storey extension to form new visitor and separate staff entrance, and a single-storey extension to form a new entrance to the residential unit that exists there currently. There are also some landscaping proposals and parking alterations as well. This slide demonstrates the site's location at the edge of the settlement. You'll see the existing building there and the relationship to the residential properties which surround. And this slide demonstrates the existing layout of the ground floor plan and the parking arrangements which surround the building as well. You'll see the access road running along the southern boundary. And then the current slide illustrates the proposed ground floor plan with the alterations to the parking layout and the extension, 2-storey extension on the south of the building and a single-storey extension for the new main entrance, and then a further single-storey extension for the residential wing. So I'll just demonstrate some images of the the existing entrance to the building. And these are from views within the current car park. And again, these are the elevations of what this new infill extension will be between the existing built form. You'll see that there is an extension of the built form and then a sail canopy design to add interest to the extension. And then the largest of the extensions is in this location. So this is the existing building, which provides some educational facilities currently, and the extension will be located in this area. And again, there's an alternative view and a further view which illustrates the existing tree canopy as well. So these are the proposed elevations for this 2-storey extension, and this is the projection beyond the existing building, and the tree canopy would be located to the side of this eastern elevation. and some indicative images have been supplied. So this top image illustrates the existing band of trees which are up against the line of the built form, and then below is how the proposed extension would look with the band of trees once the removal has been taken place. As you'll see, there's still some screening to the existing building. And this is an image of those existing band of trees. And this is the final extension. This is the smallest of the three, and this is to form a new reception area to the residential wing. You'll see the addition proposed in this location. And again, there's an image here of the location on site. So just to reiterate, this is the proposed floor plans. You've got the ground floor plan on the left, with the two-story extension in this location, the single stories. And then this is the first floor plan with only the two-story extension shown there. Just to run through some further images of the site for the existing layout of the bin storage area and the parking areas. And you can see in the background there of the picture of the existing neighbouring residential properties. This image in particular demonstrates where the car parking area will extend closer to the northern boundary. And this area of landscaping along the boundary as well. And you may have noted in some of the recommended conditions, one of the recommended conditions is the relocation of this footpath, as currently the existing layout would fall into the revised parking. So this would need to be relocated alongside the recommended condition for landscaping and tree protection. If I just run through some of the main considerations for the proposal, and I'll address those with the slides as well. So you'll see on this slide here is the image of the site, and the red line boundary demonstrates the village envelope which currently cuts through the site. There are a number of public concerns on extending beyond the village envelope and if precedent would be set for future development. Whilst the defined village envelope cuts through the site, the proposal forms an extension to an existing community facility, is confined within the existing site boundaries of Clare Lodge, and does not form a new residential development. There is support both within local and national policy to preserve community facilities, and justification has been demonstrated for the purpose of this extension is to meet Ofsted requirements. Furthermore, the proposal is not directly comparable to other previously refused schemes beyond the village envelopes. Whilst there is technically a conflict with the local plan policy, LP2, and the Glinton Neighbourhood Plan, GNP2, it is in this case that the benefits are outweighed by other material considerations. There would be no material harm by the way of encroachment into the countryside as defined by the site boundaries of Clare Lodge. And I'll just show this image here, which illustrates the existing vehicular access and the band of trees to the south of the building. And this would be retained with some partial areas of tree removal, but overall the tree band will be retained. And again, I'll just show this image again, which demonstrates the building in the background and then the band of trees forming the separation between the Clare Lodge site and the countryside of the fields beyond. So as mentioned before, there are significant benefits from the provision of the enhanced educational health and care facility, and therefore, on the balance, the principle of development is considered acceptable, and there is local and national support for the retention of this community facility and its enhancement. So if I just bring up the proposed site plan again, and this will try and give you a clear overview of the proposed alterations to the car parking layout. You'll see this block of 6 spaces which have moved closer to the northern boundary, along with the bin storage as well. So no unacceptable amenity impacts have been considered as a result of the location of the built form or the glazing itself. And although concerns were raised by public representations and the parish council in terms of the relocation of these parking spaces closer to the boundary, there are no principal concerns with parking in this location. However, we have noted that the frequent number of early and late staff movements from the site, and as such, a recommended condition is proposed for these spaces 50 to 55 to only be used between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Again, the relocation of the bin storage was not considered to result in significant residential amenity impacts to those neighbouring properties to the north. A condition has been applied for full details of external lighting to be supplied before the use of those extensions, and this primarily relates to the alterations that would be required to the existing lighting within that car park, just to ensure there's no residential amenity impacts. And as highlighted before, there are some areas of trees within this band of trees on the southern boundary which have to be removed in order to accommodate this larger extension, and some for the smaller extension. Majority of these trees were Category C trees, which were of a lower quality. However, there were 2 groups of Category B trees which are considered to be of a good value. A recommended condition for an arboricultural method statement has been provided, along with tree protection plans for those retained trees. And in order to compensate against the loss of those Category B trees that are due to be removed, there is a recommended condition for a replacement planting scheme and landscaping scheme as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Molly. Okay, members, we have a parish councillor speaker, Mr. Kurt. Yes. Could you come to one of the... Should have my mic on, shouldn't I? Yes, please, Mr. Kurt. You have 10 minutes when you're ready to address committee. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, councillors and chairman, for inviting me here or letting me speak. As has already been said, I'm Councillor Jerry Kurt. I'm chairman of Glinton Parish Council, and I represent the views of the council and Glinton residents. I've got 5 points I'd like to run through, plus a conclusion. I'll be as brief as I possibly can. The first point is conflict of interest. To quote a former leader of the City Council, quote, "The council makes a lot of money out of Clare Lodge." This quote highlights our overarching concern in respect to this planning application. Clare Lodge formerly has been Peterborough City Council's cash cow. This cash cow is currently unwell, and the desire to return it to full financial production may unduly influence today's decision. Let me explain. Peterborough City Council owns Clare Lodge. Peterborough City Council operates Clare Lodge. It also has historically received considerable financial benefit from Clare Lodge, and Peterborough City Council today will determine whether its own business will receive planning permission. Therefore, if permission is granted without considerable amendment to the planning application, how on earth can residents ever believe you have made a fair and well-balanced decision without being unduly influenced? Indeed, I'd suggest in those circumstances, a clear conflict of interest has taken place, and the Peterborough City Council is duty-bound to refer the application to an independent third party for determination. So that's point 1. Point 2, as already been mentioned, the village envelope. The proposed development is outside the village envelope and contravenes LP2 and GNP2. Now, first subpoint. This application claims that by virtue of Clare Lodge being a community facility, it is an exception site as defined under LP2 and GNP2. Realistically, it should be termed a national facility, but certainly not a community facility. Let me explain. Clare Lodge residents come from around the UK and certainly not Glinton. Clare Lodge does not serve Glinton or its surrounding villages in any shape or form. The site delivers absolutely nothing to Glinton community. As a result, Clare Lodge cannot, under any circumstances, be considered an exception site as defined under LP2 and GNP2. So in summary of this point, or this subpoint, this is clearly a cynical attempt by the applicants to relabel the unit a community facility in order to circumvent restrictions imposed by local and neighbourhood plans. Second subpoint. Glinton Parish Council emailed Peterborough City Council's Phil Moore and Sylvia Bland on October the 19th of last year, suggesting In principle, it had no objection if Glinton's village envelope was moved from the Clare Lodge building line to its boundary, thus allowing extensions such as the one we are considering today to proceed without contravening LP2 and GNP2. An email from Molly Hood, who is sitting before you, on the 25th of January 23 to the parish council stated she had passed it to the policy team so that they were aware of our views and asserted the current local plan cannot be amended and it is something to review in any future local plan. Well, given that we'd actually moved our position from opposing without exception anything going into or going beyond the village envelope to a point where we're saying, well, if you redraw the plan or redraw the village envelope, yeah, we won't have really a problem. And what we really wanted was a statement of intent or a declaration from the policy team saying the village envelope would be redefined in line with our suggestion as part of the next local plan, or words to that effect, or something that would allay our concerns. If they'd addressed the suggestion in a thoughtful manner, realistically, this committee meeting would probably have been unnecessary in respect of Clare Lodge. But we are sat here, so we've got to continue. The third point is statement of community involvement that was adopted by the City Council in 2021. There was absolutely no community involvement prior to the submission of the initial planning application. Had this taken place, the final two objections in my list here could have been discussed and hopefully resolved without this session being necessary. The first of these, which is point 4, is the car park and waste bin storage. The proposed position of car park positions 50 to 55, not 50 to 51 as stated in the committee report, and the bin storage are all adjacent to properties on Ashburn Close, which will cause loss of amenity due to excessive noise and potential rodent infestation. Both contravene LP 17. And I think someone who's following me, one of the residents, will explain the problems that she's had with rats because of bin storage in the area which we're discussing. Now, if we then turn our attention back to the car park positions, there is suitable space available on the southeast corner of the site where these car parking positions could be relocated. On a couple of occasions, Clare Lodge has incorrectly claimed that they don't own the land and they cannot relocate the car park and bins onto it. However, land registry records support our contention. They do own it, and the car parking positions can be relocated along with the bins. Fifth point before the summary or conclusion, lighting. We note the proposed planning permission has conditions surrounding lighting. We question whether the planning department have the resource to enforce them or the will. Would they actually enforce against themselves, especially as we know future enforcement decisions will be based purely on cost versus benefit? Finally, conclusion. If the City Council's policy team had acted in line with Glinton Parish Council's suggestion and either redrawn the village envelope or committed to doing so in the future, and if Clare Lodge had followed Peterborough City Council's statement of community involvement by engaging, then resolving resident concerns prior to planning, this hearing would have been unnecessary, saving considerable time, cost and effort. Now, if this committee is minded to grant planning permission without amendment, it sends out a clear signal to developers and others that local and neighbourhood plans have been produced just for guidance. In so doing, it more seriously signals that playing fast and loose with terminology and building outside the village envelopes is now deemed acceptable as far as Peterborough City Council is concerned. And the final point is, Today, you're not just deciding whether an extension can proceed, you're deciding whether to act correctly, without bias, by simply implementing policies detailed precisely within your own local plan and also those detailed within Glinton's neighbourhood plan that you chose to adopt because they reflect the views of Glinton residents. That's it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kurt. Members, have any questions? Councillor Rush.
Just like to make a comment of what the councillor said about conflict of interest. I'm sure all the councillors around this table today have no conflict of interest, else they would have declared it. We judge the planning application on the paperwork in front of us with no bias, and we make a fair and just decision. Thank you.
Okay. Wasn't a question, but you're welcome to respond if you wish to at that point, or go to the next question.
Oh, next question, I think.
Okay, Councillor Hall.
Just want to clarify something. That you were talking about the that your objection is that this development extends past the village envelope, and that you'd ask for a compromise whereby the village envelope was extended, and then at that point that your objection would then fall away. So. Just to correct me if I'm wrong, what you're basically saying is that what you're looking for is a benefit for other properties in the village to be able to have this envelope extended, so that your objection isn't actually about where these buildings are going to lay. It's just a question of whether or not where that line is drawn. Is that correct?
Yes. I think I would expand that slightly. When the original village envelope was drawn, however long ago that, a few years ago, no one, whoever drew it, thought that it should really follow the perimeter or the boundary of Clare Lodge. They thought it should follow the building line, which was incorrect. If it had followed the boundary, the objections that we've had over many years to extensions beyond it from Clare Lodge would have evaporated. And so all we was trying to do was to seek some reassurance from the planners and from the various people within Peterborough City Council that they would seek to extend it to the boundary in the future. And that wasn't provided to us.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is that your objection isn't actually about the boundary, it isn't about where the buildings are going. Your objection is the fact that they cross a line that you wish to change.
Yes.
Right, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? No? Okay, thank you. Councillor Kurt, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll call now Verity Missing, is it, please? Good afternoon, and you're very welcome to the meeting. You'll have 5 minutes when you're ready to address committee.
Thank you. My name is Verity Missing. I'm a resident of Ashburn Close, which backs onto Clare Lodge. In fact, my house appeared on your photograph. I also represent 2 of my neighbours in Ashburn Close who cannot be here today. Beyond our boundary fence is the kitchen area, boiler room, garage entrance, secure drop-off, main entrance and rubbish bins. We have noise from all deliveries to site, including reversing vehicle noise, staff arriving and leaving, including late into the evening, all visitors to site, new residents arriving, which could be day or night. We have had noise from extractor fans left on well into the night, rat infestation in our garden from a rat run from Clare Lodge, under the fence near to bins, seagulls seeking food when the bins have overflowed or been left open, and crows ripping open bags of bread delivered before the kitchens were open, so left outside. A skip has been in place just beyond our fence, it appeared on your photo, for a considerable time. It was taken away and a new one installed this week. Everything that creates noise, dust or odour appears just beyond our boundary. We cannot understand why the planning department do not recognise the positioning of 5 parking places, 50 to 55, and the rubbish bin store so close to our boundary does not contravene LP17, with the extra noise, fumes from cars, banging of bin lids, smells and extra attraction for vermin. The car parking spaces 50 to 55 should be moved along with the rubbish bins to the spare land now confirmed as belonging to council on South East corner next to the access road. It is good to put conditions on some aspects of planning, but when you are told by representatives of Clare Lodge that the land the trees are on is scrubland and we can rip them out at any time, and that car parking does not need planning permission, one wonders how any conditions would be enforced. A good example of this happened today. Just before 9 a.m, a car reversed into the hatched area, which I believe is the reversing turn for the secure drop-off garage, ignoring 3 empty parking spaces nearby. It was still there at 12 noon. We welcome the recommended condition requiring further details of lighting to the car park area and new extensions. The current application is devoid of any details of the proposed lighting. For this reason, the details submitted pursuant to the condition should be subject to further consultation with immediate neighbours in Ashburn Close. It is unclear to us from the officer report whether further consultation is intended. We would therefore welcome confirmation from the committee, via an informative, that further consultation with neighbours will occur. I'd just like to finish with saying I've always supported the work at Clare Lodge and will continue to do so.
Thank you very much. Members, have any questions at all? No, none at all.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if I could call now the applicant, Mr. McFadden, please.
Afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Mr. McFadden. You're very welcome. You'll have 5 minutes when you're ready to address committee.
Thank you, and thank you for the time. Just briefly want to explain that Clare Lodge, for those who don't know, work with some of the most abused young people in the country, both sexually and physically. The development we're looking at is to, as much as we can, normalise the secure environment, particularly with the school side. At the moment, we move young people between the home environment and school between every lessons because of the layout of the site. We want to give them as close as a community feel by going to school for the day, which will support them in reintegrating back into society, because that's what happens outside of Clare Lodge. So the development is not one based on, as previously mentioned, the cash cow, which is quite difficult to hear because the work we do is very significant. There's no intention to increase the numbers, which would increase the costs. No intention to increase staffing. It is to give the young people the best experience while they're placed in Clare Lodge. We're also looking at renewable energies as part of this development to come in line with the environment policies, and we're also going to make sure the replanting meets with the biodiversity. I'd also like to mention, it was mentioned about the rats, which I hadn't heard before, but we were managed as part of Peterborough City with Dow Pest. That contract's just being changed, so the site is fully managed for any pest insertion that we have, and we don't have much because they come and clear the traps. And that's all I'd like to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McFadden. Questions, anybody? Councillor Hogg.
Thank you. Just to sort of clarify the situation in my mind. So the capacity of the site is not going to go up. There's still going to be 16 places on that. And you know, so I'm you know, happy that you're looking to improve the facilities for the people that are contained within it. Is this a requirement? Of, you know, have you had an Ofsted inspection that has meant that you're having to upgrade the facilities?
Yes,
or is it just that you're feeling that the facilities need to be upgraded? So
There's two parts. One is to get the young people going to school, and by that creating a better environment for them going to school. It has been mentioned about the environment that needs updating and bring up to spec, which is, as you can imagine, is very costly within a secure environment. Just to correct you, we actually have 20 beds in Clare Lodge, but we get licensed up to 16. So there is potential to be beyond that, but the intention at the moment, we're only actually licensed for 4 because while we're recruiting staff, but would be to go to 16 and not beyond that.
Supplemental to that. So my second question is basically if this application was to fail and you were not given planning permission, what would the effect on the running of, what would that affect, how that would affect Clare Lodge?
It could affect inspections going forward. We'd have to be very, I suppose, we'd have to come up with a strategic plan to address the issues that are raised by Ofsted, but could be quite costly. The funding for this comes through from the Department for Education, so it's not a Peterborough City Council funding. So we do that through bids to the DFE. But we'd also, as part of this, is updating the energy systems as well to bring those in line, which are very costly at the moment. But we'd have to think really carefully about how we manage it going forward.
Okay. Councillor Hiller.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Mr McFadden. Just to pick up on Councillor Hogg's point about the Ofsted report, as I read the latest Ofsted report and the one prior to that, and I think it was pretty damning about the way that the Clare Lodge is run rather than the facilities that are on offer, just in my own mind. That's how I read that report. That aside, Councillor Curt, I think, made a very valid point as the chair of the local parish council. I'm sure you'll know Councillor Curt very well. The statement of community involvement, I actually introduced the statement of the community involvement as a policy document in the 2021 cabinet meeting where it was introduced. He said there was no conversation, there was no negotiation, there was no notification at all with any of the local residents, and certainly the subcommittee, which I understand exists within the parish council, with your good selves. Why was that, Mr McFadden?
I can only apologise for that. There are meetings held which wouldn't, which come under the register manager at Clare Lodge, who's not here today. I can't answer why they weren't put forward, but I can only apologise because they should have been.
Right, okay. So you apologise for something that was pretty fundamental and should have happened?
Yeah, I'm not going to hide it any other way.
Okay.
We should have engaged. I'm not going to address it in any other way.
Not sure you could hide it, actually, Mr McFadden. No. Mrs Missin made the point about relocating the bins and the car parking area to the north of that site layout as we see it on the screens, to the bottom right-hand corner, which is land owned by Clare Lodge. Why haven't you considered that within this application?
We did. The advice we got is that wasn't on our land, and if it is on our land, we can consider that.
Bit late now.
Well, no, it's not too late to move those bins. I mean, this is a design that's up to Rebus Stage 4. The technical design comes in the next phase, and so we can actually move that if that's something we can do.
So if the committee was minded to approve this application and condition that is something that you would consider?
Providing that is definitely our land, okay. Yes.
My final question, Chair, if I might. Much has been made about the premise of the community facility that Clare Lodge represents to the village of Glinton. Explain to me, please, because I'm lost on this one. What community facilities do you provide for the residents of the village of Glinton?
I can't. We have young people placed from the nation. We do have young people placed from Peterborough, which I assume is where the community park comes in, but not directly. We don't have young people placed in from Glinton. We do have staff that work at our place who live in Glinton, and that would be part of the community facility, but that would be it.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got Councillor Sharp.
Yeah, it's just a point of clarity because I may have misheard you, but I thought you made the statement that there would be no increase in the number of staff.
No.
You didn't make that statement?
Yes, I did. Yeah, there won't be any increase in the number of staff.
There will be.
No, there won't be. We are recruiting for vacant positions, but we're not increasing the number.
So I
of
wondered why the car parking spaces is increasing because of the
because we've always had an overlap, and it gives us an opportunity where we've had an overlap. Staff end up parking down the easement road on the side, and it's just to combat that. And in fact, we're increasing by 7 parking spaces with 2 drop-off points.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I'll just give you marks. I didn't know if it Councillor Hogg, you want to come back? Yeah, go.
You could see me edging for the button. So I just wanted to kind of tease out a bit more detail on, from Councillor Hiller's questioning. So would it be fair to say that the parish council was right in his summation that this is not really a community facility, but one that is a national facility, albeit run by Peterborough City Council?
We are a national service run by Peterborough City Council. We do employ people locally where we can, but yes, they are the terms, that is correct.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Just on, obviously, the consultations with the local people weren't held. How do you feel about, you know, what you've heard today from Ms. Missing in terms of the issues around bread and rats and all the rest?
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that until today. We have had 2 meetings with the council subsequently, the parish council. One was held in July and one was held in January to discuss these. And these issues, the rats bit wasn't mentioned. I'm not sure how we could define that the rat run comes from Clare Lodge, but we'll look into it. There are new contracts going out from Peterborough City Council to the pest controllers. But as you can imagine, as a site that's inspected twice a year by Ofsted, we also have a licensing inspection which more deals with the environment. That happened last year and has happened again this year. They pick up on that. If we were having infestation problems, that would be picked up in the Ofsted and Department for Education reports, but we'll address it if it's...
Just to come back on that, other issues are raised about birds opening bread and that kind of thing. Is that known to you? Can it be dealt with?
It's known to me now. We can deal with it. And it would be as simple as the delivery vans making sure they drop off at a time when there's someone in the kitchen, not leaving them outside.
Okay, anybody else want to ask any questions at all? No? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. McFadden. Yeah, I'm just going, because there was quite a bit raised in that, so I think rather than you sit there stewing ready for your question, I'm going to ask Sylvia and Molly to come back on some of the points that were raised, just to clarify. Thank you, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Just to clarify on a couple of things that were raised by the speakers and through the questions. First of all, the Council's statement of community involvement, it doesn't make it compulsory for all types of development to engage in local consultation. The legislation behind that just refers to specific developments such as wind farms. However, our statement of community involvement, as Councillor Hiller said, does strongly encourage developers of major development to engage with the local community, particularly where there's issues of interest. In respect of community facilities, this is a definition that's set out in the NPPF, and it refers to a type of development such as health facilities, education facilities, cultural infrastructure, but it doesn't mean that those facilities have to draw from the immediate local area. It's merely a description of the type of development, the type of use as being a community facility. With regard to the boundary of Clare Lodge and how that interacts with the village envelope, just to elaborate on the response that we have already given, to change a village envelope would be part of the local plan review process, and that would involve changing the entire local plan. So at this point, we can't give any statement of intent or such like to either the developers at Clare Lodge or any developer across the council, but that will come, any proposals to change village boundaries would need to come through the consultation process and the whole process that members would be involved in reviewing the local plan. So it's just simply, at present, it's not within our gift to be able to do that. And I think just lastly, with regard to issues around moving the bins or the car parking spaces to a different location within the site, I mean, as you know, as part of the committee, you can only consider the proposals that are in front of you, that have been submitted, and not alternative proposals that may come forward. Therefore, I think that would need to guide your decisions on this application, and in terms of whether you feel strongly about the impacts of the proposals that are before you, and whether an application should be refused and resubmitted, or whether it could be dealt with in other ways. But I'll leave that for the debate before advising any further.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for that. Okay, then we move into questions for officers. Councillor Hiller, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And thank you very much, Mrs. Bland, for that excellent explanation of the points that were raised during the Q&As. And one of my questions to you was, of course, going to be about the bins and the parking and how we potentially handled that. My second question was going to be about the boundary, and of course I was after your reassurance that officers couldn't at this stage commit to a boundary change, an envelope change, without the auspices of the local plan determining that. So sorry, Chair, those weren't questions, they were like statements of questions that I was going to ask that Mrs. Bland had already answered. So thank you for that.
Anyone else got a question at all? Yes, Councillor Sharp.
Yeah, 2 points if I may. I mean, the first piece in terms of LP30 and the community needs, just to understand it right, it talks about the wider catchment area, so your view is that the Clare Lodge covers the wider catchment area as opposed to just Glinton itself, and on that basis, that's the reasoning behind the decision, is it?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes, so as part of the policy, there is the description of it as a community facility, and that covers a wide range of facilities. It's not, isolated to just one village. It does have a wider catchment area, and that could, stretch from Peterborough itself. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just for Glinton, and just supporting that one village.
If I may come back to the second point. Yeah, we heard the applicant made reference to that there was an increase in employee numbers, but I noticed that highway services stated employee numbers are going up from 100 to 122. So I just wondered where that information came from and why it's in conflict to the applicant's statement.
Yes, so in the initial submission there was discussion around increasing the facility and increasing employee numbers. However, then with the revised or additional information regarding transport statements and everything else that was submitted, that was then confirmed there would no longer be an employment increase, and there would no longer be a capacity increase for the facility as well. So it's maintaining its licence of 16.
Councillor Iqbal.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Sylvia, in your explanation, you said about community engagement. I do have serious concerns that no engagement was made with the community. But in your explanation, you said that there are certain areas where community engagement is not required. In this scenario, was there any community engagement required or not?
Yeah. With this type of application, it's not required by legislation, but as part of our council statement of community involvement, we encourage it.
Yeah. Councillor Hogg, please.
Yeah, I just want to probe a little bit further this community facility versus, something that's more national. You listed a number of establishments that would come under that criteria. and one of which is education. But this isn't this isn't a local school, even if it is even if you were to say, well, it's a local school with wider catchment, it's not that, is it? It's a specialist facility that has a national-wide catchment area that people can come from all over. This is not a facility that local parents would be looking to send their children to out of choice. So I think we're really kind of, it's almost a contrivance here, from my mind, in terms of pushing this into that definition in order to be able to use this exemption. Maybe you'd like to push back on my pushback.
Yeah, I suppose the best way to think about it is that there are different types of uses. That you have an industrial use, retail use, residential use. And the sorts of facilities or types of uses that include things like worship or education or cultural facilities, they fall under this sort of wider description of a community facility. So they serve local, well, not necessarily local people, but they serve as part of community uses. But it doesn't mean that they have to only serve the community in which they're located. They can have different sort of catchment areas. So, one example of a community facility that I've dealt with previously is for a religious institution that was for a certain denomination of church, and that was set within a village. And there was a lot of objection to that because it wouldn't have served the people living in that particular village. It would have drawn from people living from a wider rural catchment area. But the point there is that is still a community facility. It's a place of worship, regardless of whether the people visiting it just come from a small village or whether they come from a wider location. So that's, I think, sort of similar to what we have here.
I would tentatively suggest that that's not the case. We had a situation with a faith school being put up in Hampton, and one of the
we are in
conditions,
questions though. This isn't debate.
Well,
so we're not going to sit out. I need a question.
And that would be for local children. There would be a catchment for local children within their but there is no catchment. This is not an educational establishment as such. That forms part of what they do, but that's not its prime purpose.
I'm just going to let Silvia answer that, but I'm not going to go any further with it because I think we're going way off. I understand your point, but I think once you've answered it, you've answered it. I'm not going to keep going back. So please answer the question if you would.
Well, I think it's the same answer really. That it's a description of the use as opposed to where the people might come from in attending it. So it's a sort of facility that, like education, like culture, like worship, has a social function, and that's a sort of a description that could cover lots of different uses, and that's the purpose of it here. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that. Yes, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm mindful of the replies from Sylvia, and I'm content with them. Where do we bring up the bins and the car park? Do we do it now as a question, or do we do it? You said wait till debate. I'm just, the only thing that's making me suck on my teeth currently.
No, it's a question. This is the time to question officers.
Yeah,
I don't want you to debate with officers.
That's right. No, it's
okay.
Do we bring this up now or at that stage? I just don't want to miss the boat. That's
do it now.
Bins and car park. The car park that the lady brought up was, how do we address that? Because obviously I think that's the only bit that's really making me suck on my teeth, that everything's moving right back to the fence.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a difficult question because it depends on what the committee's view is on the proposals. So I think the committee does need to have a look at the proposals. You've not had any particular debate on it. but the guidance I would give is that you do have to look at the scheme that's submitted in front of you and take a view on that, whether the location of the new bin store, the relocation of the car parking spaces, do you feel that's acceptable in land use terms? And as part and parcel of the wider development, and then you need to decide whether you feel that's acceptable or not if you're going to determine to approve the application. If you have concerns about that, you need to decide whether you feel that's sufficient to warrant a refusal of planning permission. But I think what we can't do is negotiate on moving them somewhere else within the site during the course of this meeting.
Okay. Councillor Hussain.
Sorry, on the same subject of the bins, and there was a mention of a skip there. Could I ask where those vehicles or the refuse collection, what access they used? Did they use the road we went through, or did they use the smaller residential road?
So it's my understanding that all vehicular traffic uses the access road off Lincoln Road. Yeah. And the parking and the bin storage was used in a discussion with the agent in regards to its location, and was advised that that is a location that is preferred in terms of delivery and collection of the bins.
Okay. Councillor Sharp, please.
Yeah, same subject, thank you, Chair. Are officers aware if there's been any environmental complaints made by residents in relation to the existing layout of bins? Because one of the members of the public obviously made a comment in relation to current issues. So I wondered if we'd done any research or checking with the environmental department, whether we'd had any complaints or whether you're aware.
So it hasn't come up in the consultation with pollution control that there's had any sort of formal complaints regarding the bin storage. Obviously there's the comments that have been submitted as part of the neighbour consultation under this application, and that's as far as I'm aware the first of it.
Anybody else? No? Okay, then we're going to move to debate. Who would like to start that? Councillor Hussain, please.
Hi, sorry, yes. So, firstly, I'm obviously supportive of what they do with the education. We want to obviously provide the best facilities for kids that are coming to Clare Lodge. I think as a committee, from my understanding, we've always had a responsibility to ensure that everyone has a good quality of life, whether it be the residents, the people working there, or you know, the residents surrounding the property. Looking at the plan originally, it's not for me to sort of question. I did have questions as to why they were expanding the site, but obviously there is a need due to the Ofsted report and for the improvement of the people that are coming there. The moving of the car park and the bins was a concern and is still a concern for me, for the residents living closer, closer to where the bins have been moved to, especially when there is other locations that could serve that. With the collection also, if trucks are coming through the whole site and then collecting with the beeping, reversing of trucks, that's also going to add to interruption, or noise pollution for residents. So the proposed site that was, in the bottom right corner would have been the ideal place, but as you've said, we can't sort of discuss that, I'm guessing, in this planning permission, in this application. So at the moment, I'm mindful to go against this because of that. But if the bins were moved and the car park was moved to that area, then and it was brought back, then I would probably go for it.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain. Councillor Hiller.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We've had our planners have had 41 responses to this application from local residents and 41 objections. I listened very closely to Councillor Kurtz's address, and I think he makes some very valid points, Chair, not least of which is the boundary issue, the village envelope. I suggest, however, in thinking about that, it is an administrative issue rather than something that is an impasse. And as Mrs. Bland has eloquently explained, this is an issue for the revision of the current local plan. So I don't personally have an entrenched view on that. I think it could be changed, and for the better. And Councillor Kurt himself said, you know, had we as a local planning authority said that that's definitely what we're going to do, then perhaps a lot of his antipathy towards this application would have been resolved. We couldn't say that. I appreciate that. So if it is an administrative issue on the revision of the local plan, which is going through currently, then I see that dissolving as an objection. The bins, and I think has been eloquently again mentioned, the repositioning of the bins and those car parking facilities to the bottom right hand. I was slightly disturbed that Mr. McFadden wasn't aware of what Clare Lodge actually owned and what it didn't own from a land point of view, and if indeed, as has been explained by Councillor Kurt, that is owned by Clare Lodge, Peterborough City Council, then it seems to me incongruous that a refuse vehicle will be trundling halfway round the outside of Clare Lodge secure facility to pick bins up when it could pick them up literally as you enter in. So that's something I feel we should strongly recommend that the developers for Clare Lodge give due consideration to doing, if indeed that land is owned by Clare Lodge or Peterborough City Council. Community facilities, I thought Mrs. Bland made a valiant effort in explaining what community facilities were as a planning professional herself. To me, that just didn't, the explanation was there, and it was a great explanation, but by no stretch of the imagination is this a community facility, in my opinion, Chair. It does provide some employment, we've been told, to local people, but it is a secure facility, and to compare this with a religious, where, all right, the religion may not be mine, but at least I can go in and talk to the people about the religion that they practice. I couldn't do that with Clare Lodge, not without innumerable security checks and whatever. So I don't buy that this is a community facility. That aside, all that aside, I consider this is a worthwhile application for a need. We have a need nationally for this type of facility. Let's not forget that. The trees are staying where they are. The actual expansions of the building, I feel there's going to be little or no impact whatsoever locally. So I am supporting this application, Chair, but I really do suggest that the developer gives due consideration. We can't do anything about it now, but due consideration about certainly moving those bins, if nothing else, down to the bottom right-hand side of the site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Hello, Councillor. Did you see Councillor Jamil? Yeah, I did. Thought I did.
Thank you, Chair. I have to agree with what Councillor Hiller has said. Whilst there are, shall we say, shortcomings in the application, I just think that, had we handled it in a different way, we'd consulted in the way that we normally do, or listened to the parish council thing, we may not need to be here. But I think the need for a facility like this, and we've had the reasons why we need to expand this. I'm going to be supportive, but certainly, the bins and car parks is what we're coming down to, and I just think that, the bins, I would also request that the planners look at it, but overall, I think we should give planning permission today.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. I feel that we find ourselves again with a Peterborough City Council-led application where our own best practice is not being adhered to. Within the local plan, it says best practice should be that there should be community involvement, and if we don't adhere to those kind of standards, how do we expect other developers to do so? I think it is of paramount importance that, you know, where there is guidance in the local plan where we're saying this is what we would like you to achieve, when it comes to our own applications, we should be, everything should be dotted and crossed in exactly the places where it should be, so that we can't be criticised for that, you know, a lack of involvement or you know, engagement or what have you. I just feel like, you know, here is another example of something that seems, you know, the bin store, for instance, if there had been the engagement, then that issue could have been resolved prior to coming to this committee. And I think, generally speaking, reading the room, I think a lot of people have got a particular issue with that location for the bin store, and you know, I have to say I share that situation as well. In terms of the pushing of the envelope of the village, I have to say that at the beginning of the you know, just looking purely at the papers, I had grave concerns over that, because, you know, the point of putting a line on a map to say this is the extent of where you can build or where you can't build, it's there for a reason. So I was very uneasy about sort of basically trampling over that line, and with no kind of recourse to the parish council or what have you. But then I have to say that the councillor from the parish council kind of did their legs a little bit in terms of saying, well, actually, if the line, if we could move the line, then we'd be happy with this. So from my point of view, that kind of dissolved that problem away. So what we're left with, from my point of view, and, you know, this is kind of echoing maybe what other people have said already, is this bin store, and I think that if we can make it a condition that the bin store is moved away from residential, from its current location and away from so many meters away from residential thing, and to be relocated within the you know, the envelope of this, then I'm going to be more than happy. Otherwise, I would have to vote against.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay. I'll come to it. I'll come to it. Who was next? Sorry, did I see Councillor Iqbal? Yes, that's right. And then.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. First, I'd like to say that the extension will not set a precedence, as all applications that come before the committee, they are dealt on their own merits. The officer in her address did state that it's going to bring a significant enhanced benefits with this extension. We need to take that into account. The applicant in his address said that there'll be no increase of numbers, no increase of staff. Ofsted report, I would say, like, warrants this, that there should be an extension which will bring more facilities for the residents. And an applicant in his address also expanded how they're going to benefit from it. I had an issue about the community engagement, and that was a serious issue that I had some concerns about, but Sylvia did address it, that there's no legislative requirement that certain engagement was required. However, it should have been encouraged by the City Council. Engagement is important, whether it's a legislative requirement or not, but however, in this instance, as it was not a legislative requirement, I could probably live with that. There's no principal highway issues. These issues have been addressed. In terms of the community facility, I believe that Sylvia gave a very credible explanation, and as rightly said by Councillor Hiller, there is a national need of such a facility. On that basis, I am minded to support this application. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought I saw Councillor Sharp first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I support many of the comments that have been made to date. I mean, in relation to the community need, it seems to me to be fairly clear, and there is a statement in the application overview that refers to LB30 and the health, well-being, social and education needs of the community or a wider catchment area. In my view, this covers a wider catchment area, it covers Peterborough, so in terms of drawing the need. So in my head, that's answered. I just go back to this what seems to be a point of contention around the bin store. If I'm understanding this correctly, we can't condition the applicant to relocate the bin store. So if you're not happy with the bin store, I think we have to refuse the planning application. That's how I'm understanding it. So I'm happy to debate that further, and whether the bin store really is an issue, because otherwise, if we accept it, we're relying on the applicant communicating with the local residents about an improved location and putting a variation into planning. So
Could I come in?
To debate that further, but I think that's just a point of clarity to, especially Councillor Hogg's comment.
I'm going to come in at this point because you know what I'm like about site visits, don't you? And if you'd have been on the site visit, you'd have seen that where the skip and bins are now. And the picture that's up, sorry, lost it.
I'm just going to bring a photograph up.
Because it seems to be, I feel that people are going down and I don't want the bin store. As if it's a new idea. It's a move, it's not a new idea. You can see where it is now. You're going to move it back, I don't know, 10 foot, 15 foot?
It will still be 1.7 metres from the northern boundary with that landscaping on that boundary just here retained.
Okay. So, just so as you understand, this isn't a new thing in this application. This is a slight move for that particular bit. So, I'm fine with debating, but remember, the fallback, if nothing happens, it's still there anyway, just a little bit further away. It's not a new thing. So, I think some of the debate I'm hearing is if it's a brand new place, we're just going to stick a bin and a skip there. Well, we're not, or they're not, should I say. Shouldn't say we, it's not me. So please carry on the debate, but I just wanted to make sure you understand that facility is already effectively there. Please carry on, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Just a slightly different angle from what you said. I think some of the issues here have come from, to coin a phrase, the council marking its own homework. And I think this is where, and there has clearly been a sort of breakdown in communication, and that's what I feel. And where I am with this is my head is very much with Clare Lodge in terms of what they're setting out to achieve. My heart equally is cognizant of what the residents are concerned about. Just moving back to that boundary it doesn't actually assuage their fears about what's happening on that site. And so would I support this application? 100%. Would I like to see the developers, the people who are developing this site, be mindful of what the residents are up to and what, Councillor Kurt has also said? Then yes, I would like that. And I think the end of term report here could and should do better in terms of communication from our point of view, or the council.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Anybody else want? Yes, Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Chair. Well, as you said, from the site visit, it wasn't an apparent concern straight away for me because the bins are already there and the skip's there. But there is an opportunity to make an improvement because residents have raised a concern about that. It may have been an ongoing issue. It is a bit of an eyesore. Initially, I thought, well, if the bins are moving closer, the vehicles are moving closer, they take it's away from your line of sight almost because they'll be behind a fence or a hedge. But the issue will remain, or vehicles now, when I was sitting, I was thinking, well, if vehicles are closer to the fence, when they're starting and stopping and stuff, you'll hear them more. When trucks are, coming up and down, you'll hear them, although they're already there or it's already carrying on. If it's a reason to offer, because of the lack of engagement, those residents may be a solution by moving those bins and the skip and taking away some of that noise by doing that, then it's something that should have been considered. So I'm still sort of standing where I am on my thought that if we can't stipulate that happens, then at the moment I would stay in my original position.
So would you looking at that picture there, that's what they could draw that drawing and still put exactly what that's there. And would you oppose that? I'm just putting the debate out there. If the drawing came back and that is exactly where it is now, how would you be able to oppose it?
I wouldn't be able to oppose it because it's already there, so they've not changed that.
But
no,
the lorries will still come up. This is debate,
No,
that's
look,
what it's about, isn't it? I'm putting different points of view. So.
I know what you're saying, but the fact is, this would give the developers an opportunity to say, look, we got it wrong, we didn't engage with you, we're prepared to do this. So it's maybe a way of them building some...
My only concern is I think if you do it just based on those grounds, then appeal would just throw it straight out because we've not got it. Our grounds are very weak. I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but the grounds are very weak because it's already there. Councillor Hiller, then Hogg.
Yeah, I think what I was, thank you, Chair. That's a good point that you make. My point was that this is an ideal opportunity, perhaps, for the developer to look at where the bins are placed currently. We've had Mrs. Missin mention the rodent infestation and the other things that go with it. We have no evidence of that. I completely get that, but it seems to me also, given Mr. McFadden's lack of knowledge about what land is owned and what isn't owned by Peterborough City Council, it's an ideal opportunity, perhaps, to relocate those bins to not only a more amenable position, I guess, from a bin lorry point of view, but also alleviate any potential problems which could be there for the residents that back onto that particular site. That was the point I was making, and for the planning officers to perhaps work with the developer, work with the applicant to see whether that was feasible. If it's not feasible, then it's not feasible, and I completely get your point, Chair. It is what it is. I completely get that, but it's an opportunity perhaps not to be missed, I might add. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hogg.
I just wanted to ask a question, if I may, from officers, and that is, if we were minded to pass this application, but the developer has taken on board a lot of these sort of conversations around the bin store and was to say, do you know what, yes, actually, we would like to move the bin store to somewhere else. Would that need to come back or would it be a variance, or is there some way that it can be done in a very simple way if we were to approve as it stands, or are they then stuck with the bin store where it is?
I think the first question that we'd ask ourselves is the bin store development in itself that requires planning permission? Because it's effectively an enclosure with a hard standing, so it may be that they would be able to create this elsewhere within the boundary of the site without needing planning permission.
Okay.
So I think because it's a Peterborough City Council run application, that councillors, if they feel that there's a particular want for that to be relocated, they could make representations elsewhere to make sure that happens. That would
Good
kind
point.
of move that on, as it were.
That's a good point. Just to be clear, that what we're going to decide on is the application in front of you. Recommendations can be made, but we can't be conditioning them. That wouldn't be fair to do that. So I agree with your point, but that would be outside of this meeting, and hopefully the Mr. McFadden and the parish would get together and sort this out. And if it needs planning permission, well, I'll have to look at it if we're doing hard stand, or it might be, like you say, it might be development that can happen. Anybody else want? Yes, Councillor Rush.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Yes, this is an establishment that's greatly needed, and happy to see now that perhaps we're coming to some sort of compromise where, although we pass this application, officers and the developer could, get together and talk to each other, so perhaps the bin store could be moved, and it would probably save a bin lorry trundling all through the site, and make it a lot better. But I'll leave it up to officers to decide whether that is feasible and see where we go from there. Thank you.
Did you want to come back on that?
I was just going to say we could take that away with us.
Yeah, please.
Yes, Councillor Rush, that's something that we can take up with the Clear Lodge in our, as to whether any planning permission would be required for any operations required to relocate the bin store.
Anyone else? Are we done? Okay, I'll just add my bit in. Councillor Curt, still here? Councillor Curt wondered whether or not we would, I guess, whether it would be seen as open and honest and transparent. I think hopefully we've shown that a debate happens, you know, and this isn't a foregone conclusion, and we still don't know yet where we're going with this. So I hope you feel a little bit comforted, or your parish will, that we have debated and it's not a done deal. It certainly isn't at this point. No, but I just wanted you to understand from my point of view that, you know, I feel that a little bit insulting really, but there you are. I think we're all very honest, and I think, you know, I'll protect my committee as much as I can, because I think we do a great job. Now, yes, without a doubt, in my view, it is a much needed facility nationally, as well as, obviously we don't know if we've got any local ones, it's nothing to do with us, but it is a national facility. It's fantastic. Ofsted, as Councillor Hill has already said, it's not so much just the facility, it's also the way it's been managed, but he's dealt with that. But yes, there's no doubt that it does need some improvements to do that. The community engagement does worry me, but I'm not going to push on that. I think that point's been made enough times now that it was lacking and it needs to be better. The engagement between Clare Lodge, Mr McFadden and the parish, and of course the residents as a whole, really needs to happen, and I can't urge them more. Committee can't make that happen. This is going to be down to you guys to make this happen, to work with your community. And if the bin problem is a big problem, then please, I urge you, move it. You know, find a way to move that. These are people that live there for many years, many generations probably, and their children. And they're fed up with rats and you know, noise from that skip. I understand that skip. It's nothing to do with us today, but that skip right by my fence, I wouldn't like it either. There's better places to put a skip. But it's just working with your community. So I'd urge you, please, work with the community. It's not a planning thing, but it's an urge from the chair of planning and planning members here to do something to make this happen, to make it better. Yeah? You've got to work together. You're together in the community, effectively. So, you know, let's make that happen. Other than that, I'm supportive. I don't have a problem with the village envelope. I totally understand about that, and Councillor Hogg was quite right. You know, where do we stop? You know, but as you quite rightly heard, and I heard too. Well, if you move the line, I'm not bothered, or we're not bothered. It really ruined that for me. But and anybody else in the future, stand by your line, I would say. But there you are. Other than that, yes, I'm totally for it, and I will be voting for it. And again, urging real, you know, communication between the different parties to get this sorted out. That's me. Anybody else? No. So I'm going to go for. Has anybody got a proposal on this? Councillor Iqbal.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, I'm happy to accept the proposal and allow the planning application.
Thank you, Councillor Iqbal. Seconder? Councillor Rush, second. So we've got a proposal and a seconder. Go to the vote. All those in favour? This is unanimous, isn't it? Yeah, it's a unanimous decision. So the application is approved. But please work with the community. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Anybody need a 5-minute break before we crack on, or should we crack on? Yes, please. If you want to just quick get a drink of water, just 5 minutes. Is that okay? Okay. All ready? Yep, okay, everybody's back. So thanks very much for all coming back quickly. We're going to move on to item 5.2, which is the open space Thurney Close in Newborough. And again, I'll pass over to Molly Hood, please, to present. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is the second application brought today. This is the area of open space located off Thurney Close in Newborough, and the proposal is for the construction of a skate ramp. So you'll see the location plan on the screen, which illustrates the neighbouring properties to the north of the site and the existing playing field, with the primary school located to the west and open countryside to the east and south. The current slide demonstrates the proposed site plan, but also incorporates the existing play provisions on the current playing field. You'll be able to see on the western side of the location plan some existing climbing frames and play structures. To the more central location, there's the netball hoop and the football pitch. There's also a few sort of exercise machines along the southern boundary, and then the proposed skate ramp is in the southeast corner, situated between two existing bands of trees. So I'll just run through some site images that were taken. This first image is the approach up to the playing field. You'll see the vehicular access, the pedestrian access. If I just make sure I've got my marker. There we go. So you'll see your vehicular access there, pedestrian access, this turning head at the entrance to the playing field, and then the proposed skate ramp location is in this area to the rear of the football goal. Again, this is now an image within the site, just standing beyond that vehicular entrance. You can see the football goal, and just in the background is the one band of those existing trees, which are to be retained. A further image within the playing field site itself, looking at where the proposed location of skate ramp is, existing trees to be retained. And this is standing in the location of the skate ramp, looking back towards number 18, Thurney Close. So this just provides an enlarged site plan of the skate ramp, and it gives you an idea of its location between the existing trees and the scale of it in relation to those trees. And again, this provides some elevational drawings, so it's a cross-section of the skate ramp, and I'll provide you with some measurements at this point as well. So the ramp's length itself is 16.5 metres, and then at either end are some earth mounds, which will be built up, and they extend 1.4 metres. The width of the skate ramp is 7.2 metres, and again, there's these metal railings to the top of the ramp, which are 1 metre. And again, this just illustrates the layout with the existing play equipment, the neighbours, and the proposed skate ramp in this corner. It's worth noting at this point there's a separation distance marked on this drawing, and that equates to 33 metres from the edge of the skate ramp to the nearest neighbouring property's residential curtilage boundary. So if I just run through some of the main considerations that are taking place in this application, and also through public representations. So the proposal itself will create an alternative means of sports equipment, which is currently not present in Newborough. It's in a sustainable and easily accessible location on the existing informal playing field. The proposal doesn't compromise the existing play equipment or football pitch. It doesn't create overcrowding of the existing play equipment, and there is a degree of separation between the different age ranges of equipment that's present. The parish have confirmed a total of 6 sites were explored around the village. However, all but one were discounted due to either separation distances and lack of permissions. On balance, the benefits of the new sports equipment is considered to outweigh the loss of a small, currently grassed area of playing field, as the proposal ensures the open space caters for all age ranges. As such, the proposal meets the requirements of MPPF paragraph 99C and policy LP 32 of the Peterborough local plan. So parking was a further concern that was raised in the public representations. The existing open space has no off-street parking provision, and there's no parking provision allocated within Thurney Close. You will see in the update report that was circulated to members, there was a representation provided which suggested an alternative area of parking provision. However, that's just a public suggestion. It hasn't been submitted in this application and hasn't been assessed on that basis either. You'll also see there were two other areas, two other representations received regarding this application. One in objection, and then a letter that was sent from a child within the village itself. You'll also see that there was a representation received from Councillor Allen, providing his views on the location of the skate ramp as well. Whilst there is no existing parking provision, there hasn't been any provision sought through this application either, and Local Highway Authority have advised the change of use is not expected to result in a significant flow of additional traffic, and as such, there was no request for parking provision. Residential amenity was another key significant concern that was raised through public representations, and during the course of the application, an acoustic report was submitted to assess the potential impact from the concrete ramp being introduced into the playing field. The acoustic report confirms that the external noise level falls below the 55 decibel level set out within the guidance Get Your Skates On, which has been utilised by the Parish Council in their assessment. And again, the minimum separation distance of 30 metres has been met, with the separation of 33 metres between the edge of the skate ramp and number 18. There were also other calculations within the acoustic report taking into account potential internal noise levels from inside the nearest residential properties, looking at the implications of, looking at the support that the windows and a partially open window can offer. And the internal noise levels were estimated between 28 and 33 decibels for those nearest properties inside a bedroom with a partially open window, which is again below, an acceptable internal noise level. It is accepted that the ramp could be used at any time of the day, and so could the existing play provision that's present on the open space. There isn't any proposed external lighting as part of the application, and again, this is intentionally done to prevent use outside of daylight hours, and it's expected that the use of this skate ramp is more than likely to be seasonal, as such with the existing play equipment on site. As I've mentioned, there's unrestricted access to the playing field currently, and the skate ramp is not considered to be any different in terms of offering a play provision, but covering all age ranges. The design has ensured there's natural surveillance from the properties nearby, and the landscaping condition recommended is only for low-level landscaping on the earth banks that have showed that are adjacent to the skate ramp. We're not, again, seeking to create an enclosure or screen into that skate ramp, which again would draw the attraction of potential antisocial behaviour. In terms of flood risk, the site's located in flood zone 3. The sequential test has been passed, and the exception test was not required as it's a water-compatible development. However, we have recommended a condition for surface water drainage strategy to be submitted and for a maintenance programme to also be submitted to ensure the flows from the concrete ramp are catered for and that it doesn't result in potential surface water flooding to the existing football pitch and other areas of the playing field. As I've mentioned, the existing trees surrounding the skate ramps, if we just locate those again on the site plan, there's 5 in this location and 2 to the other side of the ramp. They will be retained, and again, a recommended condition is proposed for a tree protection plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Molly. Okay, so we've got 2 councillors, Councillor Simons and Parish Councillor Brian Cole, please, to speak to us if you'd like to come to these 2 chairs at the front. You want to come together? Are you both here? Yes? Councillors, you're very welcome as always, and between you have 10 minutes when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. Although I fully support a skate ramp in Newborough, I do have real concerns of the location. Some of this committee will remember I've got some knowledge of leisure and noise because I did have an operation called Battlefield Live, which had infrared guns, and I had to put an acoustic fence, which is a lot. I mean, the properties were about half a mile away, and I had to put an acoustic fence. And it wasn't relating to the guns or the equipment, it was relating to children. So I thought I'd just remind the committee of that. We have to remember, it's recommended a distance of 50 to 80 metres for a skate ramp from properties. This is absolute minimum, is 30 metres. This is barely just It's around about 30 metres. It can't be mitigated by an acoustic fence. It just wouldn't be possible in this location. It would cause ASB and other issues. And the officer said no floodlighting. Well, we all know it gets daylight at 10:30 in the summer. So I think, you know, with the ASB, the distance to the houses, I think this committee need to really carefully consider the potential effect on these residents of nearby houses. I'll say I fully support a skate ramp. I think there's better locations within the village. So I'd, you know, I'd like the committee to consider this is not a suitable location in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to pass the mic over yet?
Okay. Okay, so Brian Cole, Newbury and Borough Fen, Chair, Parish Council. So, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this afternoon. And I'm pleased, as Parish Council is pleased to support their own application, but you'll not be surprised in that. And we're pleased to see that the Planning Office is recommending that it is approved. The history of Fernie Close and the playing field goes back to the late 60s. With the houses being built and the playing field being actually established at the similar timescale. The Parish Council leases the land from the Church Commissioners, and it has done, I believe, I've been out as far as back I've been able to check since the 1950s, but the establishment of the playing field, from what I can see, wasn't until the 60s when the houses were built. And it's an ongoing renewal of the lease. The lease is due to be renewed again in 2032, so it's got considerable lifespan ahead of it. And the Church Commissioners have agreed to the actual installation of the skate ramp, and they're happy that it fits within the use that we leased from them with regards to for the community and for the children in the community as a playing field. Around 2 years ago, possibly 3 now, the Parish Council started on a significant investment in the park and upgrading of the equipment, as already has been mentioned, and the skate ramp is the final piece in that jigsaw. And the children are really, really excited about the prospect of actually having something like this in their village. I have to stress, please, when you're considering the application, it's a skate ramp, not a skate park, which are two significantly different things when you look at what's at Eye and what is Warrington, and what we're proposing is a single skate ramp. And as a result of that, we don't see there are going to be any people coming to the village to go on one ramp. It's purely seen as a facility for the children that live in the village at the moment. Discussions about the ramp, as proposed, started a few years ago at the Parish Council meeting, obviously agendaed and open to the public to come along and actually discuss with the Parish Council, ask the Parish Council questions, etc. And to be fair, Newbury Parish Council is one of the few parish councils we do get quite a good attendance at our meetings for the Q&A sessions that we have before the meetings. In addition to that, a few years ago, there was an open morning at the village hall. I don't know whether the children brought the parents or the parents brought the children to see what would you want with regards to your, let's put, refurbished park. And so they selected various aspects of equipment, etc. And so they had a say within what it was that they wanted to be put in there. Our plan sits within Sport of England guidance, and as already mentioned, it's over 30 metres from the nearest house, which is granted, it's a recommendation. The children of the village, a few years ago, did a fundraising session to actually support specifically the installation in the village of a skate ramp. And they raised £1,310, which for a community for the size of Newbury, I think speaks for itself. They did that by car washing, cutting people's grass. I'm sure you get the idea with regards to what they did. They donated this money to the Parish Council in anticipation that we would make use of it with the potential installation of a skate park. Since applying for the application, as has already been said, we've gone through various additional hoops. There's the flood risk report, £175, the acoustic assessment, £1,680, both of which have been accepted and satisfied the planning officer with regards to what was required. And we also employed an architect, £349. The reason I'm saying all that, that's all public money that we've put to show how serious and how important this is to the community to get it put in place. As I say, it's for a single ramp, not a skate park. The skate ramp, in conclusion, is something that the children in the village are really looking forward to, and the PC, Parish Council, wants to deliver for them. I hope the committee can support the Parish Council and the Planning Office recommendation in agreeing to our plans and pass our application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cole. Got anything else to add? Councillor Simons, finished? Okay, thank you. Okay, questions for the councillors at all? Ooh, I've got one. Who's that? Councillor Hiller, yeah.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Thank you both, Councillor Simons, Councillor Cole, for those addresses. Councillor Cole, particularly, who gave a lot of detail into the application process. My question to you both, I suppose, Councillor Cole, first perhaps, would you say generally, Councillor Cole, that the village residents are supportive of this application? I note from the report that we have responses, 69 are supporting and 18 are against, and I guess the 18 probably emanate from somewhere north of the site. So would you say that you do have the support, and if you agree that you've got the support, where possibly, in a question to Councillor Simons, Councillor Allen is not here, Councillor Ray we don't hear from on the report, but where else could it be? You both, Councillor Simons and Councillor Allen, say you're supportive of the facility but not the position. Where else would it be in Newborough? So thank you, if that's not too complicated. Thank you.
Do you want me to go first? Okay. Regarding support, I mean, I could only go off the figures that you've got there for people who come in support, etc. And what we've done, we visited the school and we asked the children, and not surprisingly, the children wholeheartedly in favour of it. At the parish council meetings where people have attended, I think, I'll be honest, you tend to get the people who object to it come from Ferny Close, I'll be totally honest with you, where the rest of the community actually are quite in favour of the proposal. But I couldn't give you figures. I'm not suggesting that's what you're asking me for. I couldn't give you figures. As far as other locations are concerned, we have looked at some locations, and they're few and far between. The first thing I need to point out is the parish council doesn't own any land. So it's only what we lease. We looked at the cricket club, but it's not parish council land. It would be meant we'd be putting public money into somebody else's land. But the feedback we got there, they're more for organised sports. They're happy for some football to be played there, and obviously the cricket. But they weren't in favour of something such as where it's just children just turning up to make use of the facilities. As a result, we're saying it's more for organised events, and so they turned us down for that. After that, I'm really struggling to see where else we could put it within the parameters of what we've got to satisfy.
May I suggest the Longhurst development on Thorney Road? It's a recent development for affordable houses. It could be incorporated there because it's a single ramp. I'm sure if there's it could be incorporated for the play area there. Also, the allotment area on the edge of the allotments, I think would be a much better location personally.
If I might, Chair, had you as a parish council considered those sites?
So the allotment site, that would be a change of use because that's agricultural land, and so we'd have to get the agreement, which I doubt we would get from the church commissioners, because that's leased to us on the basis it's used for agricultural purposes. Would the allotment holders be particularly happy with young children going along there with skateboards and ramps and not touching their allotments? I suspect we'd get significant pushback from that. The Longhurst development, well, again, that's not parish council land, so we'd be looking at investing in a private individual's land if we were to do that.
And just one more, Chair, if I might. Would it be fair to say, and that is the question, would it be fair to say that the current football facilities there that are in place, albeit when we went up on the site visit, it wasn't exactly championship level, and I use the term level, advisedly. Would you say, both as a ward councillor and representing the parish council, that the noise potentially emanating from a football activity is as great, if not greater, than something that came from a skate facility? And I got your point about it's not a skate park, it's a skate ramp. I did understand that.
Yeah, there is a mold problem there, you're quite right. It's an ongoing problem that we have to deal with. If I'm totally honest, there isn't a lot of football played on there, and you've probably hit the nail on the head because it's not particularly suitable. There are no organised football matches that take place on that pitch anyway, but if I think the term is, because my kids used to do the go on there for a knockabout, absolutely, yes.
What I would say is the images on the screen, I don't think they represented the distance. I think if you did the site visit, hopefully most of you did, you'd see the representation from this activity to the house. It's really, 30 metres, it's really quite close. And we all know the ASB issues with skate ramps. I know it's one, but I have real concerns.
Okay. Sorry, Chair, to prolong, but do you genuinely feel that there could be an antisocial behaviour issue created by the erection of this skate ramp?
Absolutely.
Okay, I've got. Yeah, you can do. He's asked for both.
I'm not aware of any antisocial behaviour in the village, and I don't see why this should actually encourage antisocial behaviour in the village.
Okay, thank you very much. Could I ask? Yeah, I know I've got it. I've got mine coming. I had my hand it before you, and I'm in the big chair. What did the police say? What are the police saying about this?
I've had no feedback from the police. We don't see the police in our village. It's not a good thing. It's just something that doesn't happen.
So you can answer if you want, Councillor. I take it as no comment from the police then?
No,
I know there's something in our report, but
the only thing I was going to say
personally.
that there certainly has been ASB issues within the park from residents. I can assure you that.
Right. Okay. You also mentioned, Councillor Simons, if I might, that you had your own development or own play area where you had to have noise, acoustic fencing, etc. But would you agree children make noise? It is a play park. I mean, it's not like this is a new play park. This is already a play park, and there's already quite a lot of bits of kit in there. I'm not taking apart the fact that the skate ramp might be. Is your noise issue from the children you're coming from, or is it the noise of skating that you're coming from? The noise bit is the bit I'm interested in, not because the ASB seems to be there's been some. But the police don't seem to be bothered by it, particularly they're not saying don't do it, whatever you do.
Yeah.
Where's your noise coming from? Is it children, or is it the noise of the skating, or is it the both, do you think?
Yeah, obviously you could argue that it's a play park and you're going to get children making noise. Of course you are. I think it's a different type of noise. I think it's a different type of child. I think it's that park is generally aimed for younger children, if I'm honest. And you're going to get youths, and you're going to get probably, I can't say it for definite, but ghetto blasters, things of this nature, and going on till 10:30 at night. Whereas the younger children probably won't be around at that sort of time. They're going to be coming in the cars. I mean, we've already said add antisocial people with cars and young lads.
You made me feel old then.
It's the older children I'm worried
Ghetto
about.
blasters. That made me feel old, I don't know. But, thank you. I know what you mean, yeah. I know what you mean. Thank you. All right, okay, fair enough. I'll come back to you with something in a minute. Who else wanted a question? Somebody else put their hand up here. Councillor Hogg.
I just wanted to gauge what the... it seems to me that this is a recreation ground in need of desperate upgrade. That the football pitch, as has already been alluded, is something close to a World War I reenaction field rather than that one for playing sports, even rugby for that matter. I think that so essentially I just wanted to understand what the current usage is, and is it just that the parish council has decided this is well beyond sell-by date and it needs to be properly kind of upgraded so that you can get the best use of this leased land?
So the land is a challenge. There's no getting away from it. It sits on the edge of the countryside, and as a result, it gets visited by moles, and we have times when we do our best to eradicate them in a nice, friendly way. And then it's only a question of time because of where it is. As day follows night, they're going to come back. We had a problem with our contracted maintenance firm, to be fair, last year with regards to the upkeep, not just of that, but of the grass cutting generally in the village. We're on it this year, as much as what we can be with regards to that, as in the not keeping to the contract of how often the grass is cut, etc. But as regards the equipment, hopefully you weren't referring to that, because we put a significant amount of money into that over the last 2 or 3 years, as I said earlier, to bring it up to standard. I suppose if you'd seen what was there to what was there now, you would see a significant improvement in the facilities available to the children.
Okay. So essentially the ASB that's happening on this is one perpetrated by moles rather than teenagers.
Councillor Iqbal, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I've been sitting on the planning committee since 2016, and the first thing I look at is objections and people who support it. And by looking at this, I've come to a conclusion that this application has attracted a lot of support. Yes, I mean, total numbers of objections are 18 and total number of support 69, which is quite a lot. So I'm sure to your concern, Councillor Simon, is that you don't have a problem with the skate ramp, but you have the problem with the location. Looking at the numbers and support, clearly they're happy with the support. Considering that, would you change your view?
No, I think if you look at the support, I think there's some people have commented 3 times in support. There's been a campaign for that, which is not, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. No, I 100% support a skate ramp in the village. I just have real concerns for the residents that, within 30 metres.
Okay, good. Councillor Hogg.
You mentioned the Longhurst development as a possible location for this skate ramp. I think that was something that came through this committee not so long ago. But surely that would be far less than 30 metres away from buildings if you were to put it on the land there.
I'd have to look at the plans, I'll be honest, to where you could put it and how distance you get it from the houses. But obviously there will be some play equipment, I would imagine, in there. So I couldn't honestly say on that.
Anyone else want to ask the councillors anything before I release them? No. Thank you, councillors. Thank you very much for your time. Okay, we will move on now to Kevin and Patricia Richards, please. Same 2 chairs, please, Kevin. Are you on your own, Kevin? Yeah, just in one of those 2 there. Is Patricia joining you? No, that's fine. No. Yes, of course. Yes, no problem. Okay. Welcome then, Kevin. Sarah will show you how to use it if there's a problem. Yeah. Okay. Welcome, Kevin, to committee. You'll have 5 minutes when you're ready.
Right. Firstly, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to air our views on this serious problem. Firstly, the residents of Fernie Close had no formal consultation from the parish council regarding the skate ramp. Most found out about the project on social media or by word of mouth. This was not a sensible or practical way to inform the residents about this project. The proposed site to construct the ramp is totally unsuitable as it is too close to residential properties because of the noise and antisocial behaviour it will generate. Again, according to the recommendations by Skate UK Ramp, any ramp should be 80 to 100 metres from residential property to alleviate this problem. As living at number 18, directly next to the playing area and in front of the gates to the park, this will affect myself, my next door neighbour and several other neighbours down the close, who some have lived like us for their over 40 years in a lovely, peaceful, happy place with facilities for a younger generation of the children in the village to play on. There's 3 skate ramps within 3-mile radius of Newborough, Crowland and Warrington. 2 of these are extensively covered in graffiti and have had antisocial behaviour issues. This could be firmed by local councillors from and Warrington, and I'm sure they will confirm this. A couple of years ago, the play park was refurbed with the children's play equipment. There was an increase in antisocial behaviour as soon as this happened. Indeed, even when the storage container was just on the entrance to the field, youths were climbing on top of the roof of it within 2 evenings of that being sited there. Now that's a good indication to what antisocial behaviour could happen. Some kind person, I don't know who did, put 2 nets up on the goalposts on the small football area. I wouldn't call it a pitch, I'll call it a football playing area. Within days, those were torn down and thrown into the trees nearby. We've had loud music, drinking, swearing, shouting, litter bin vandalised and bottles and cans thrown in various places over the grass. This is a very unsightly and unwanted issue. The park is widely used by families with younger children and youths using the football pitch area, which has been reduced in size and will be reduced in size again if the ramp goes ahead. Access to Fernie Close is already an issue. As shown on the pictures to the entrance, and as Molly said, it is a turning area, not a parking area. We've already had an increase of cars coming to the park after the refurb, and a lot of the time it is people just driving there, letting dogs jump out the back and go exercising, running around a field. And any more vehicles will surely add to this problem. A lot of these cars, and we get it at school time as well, morning and evenings, come just park in the close, half park on the pavements, which restricts access to the field by pedestrians and disabled people. There is no designated parking area as such, as stated, as there is at all the other 3 skate ramps in the 3-mile radius. This skate park will attract more people from outside areas, and I'm talking about the recent Manor Park development at the top of the Newborough Road, and also the proposed Leeds Farm Park, the other side of the road, who have very little facilities up there. They don't even have a bus through it. A recent comment by a local person said there was an area that could be used between 11 and 15 Fernie Close. That could be used. It's already a grass area, which has been for the last 40 years, and could be used for a parking area. Well, this is purely a grass area.
Just to let you know, there's 30 seconds left.
Pardon?
Just to know there's 30 seconds left.
Oh, sorry. And it was designated parking area on the original plans over 40 years ago. So it's a proper, it's a toddler's play space. The land is owned by the church commissioners with about 7 years to go. So what happens on to this ramp if the church commissioners suddenly can't say, that's it, we want the land back? And also the actual construction of the skate ramp. Everybody around Fernie Close knows the land is soft. We've all had building issues, and any footings have to go on piles round about 7 to 8 metres deep. No indication has been proposed on what foundations are going to be put into this ramp.
Okay, sir, that's your time.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Questions, please, committee, to Mr. Richards. Councillor Rush.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. You said that the football pitch will be reduced in size. Why do you say that?
Well, to be reduced in size is to keep an area safe, more safe away from a skate ramp of people on skateboards or bikes flying off the skate ramp if somebody's playing football near the goalposts.
We always hear now that there's nothing for children to do. What do you think the children should be doing then if they haven't got the skate park?
Well, for the last 40 years they haven't had a skate park, so what have they done for the last 40 years?
But
Exactly.
Don't you think it'd be better then to provide something for the children to do?
Then
they probably wouldn't get into it.
I would love for them to have a skate park, but it's in totally the wrong area. Only one person in Ferny Close objected to it. Everybody else said no. Only one person was for it. The rest objected.
What about the rest of Newborough?
Well, where do they live? A lot of people that in the new development over Bramble Close live right the other side of Newborough. The other side have to cross a busy road right through the village, which we've been asking, or the council are trying to get a pedestrian crossing in it, and they say, oh no, you can't have that. All this is going to do is increase traffic flow to and in and out the village and down School Road in front of the school where cars are parked all day, some days, effectively making School Road a one-lane road turning in and out of Ferny Close, and one day somebody will have a serious accident going in and out of Ferny Close because of the amount of traffic that's increased, and they don't respect the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit down it.
Okay, anybody else? Councillor Hogg.
Just to touch on the thought that you were saying that there are 3 other skate parks.
Yeah, correct.
In the area.
Have you seen them?
And that, so I'm certainly aware of certainly the one in Warrington, and that has a large car park. And
Exactly.
I was just wondering why you feel that suddenly this skate ramp, which isn't a full skate park, is going to kind of draw in youths with skateboards from across the local area. Why they wouldn't go to Warrington, where there is place for people to park? That surely because this hasn't got parking, it's less likely to draw people in from outside of the village.
You wouldn't believe the amount of people who come in cars just to park in that little cul-de-sac to go in the park, and any more, which it will attract, because I know it will. It will just make it unsociable, and all the problems is on the Ferny Close residents, not the rest of Newborough.
Yes, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a matter of, you've already said this shouting, swearing.
Yeah,
so
we've got it, yeah.
In your opinion, how much increase, or what will the volumetric increase be by the if there's people playing football there, using the equipment which is already there?
People playing football is no problem, because they don't stand there shouting all the while, calling out. It's the antisocial behaviour that the skate park will bring, because it will bring an older generation of people there, and it's the older ones who cause the antisocial behaviour.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't get an answer to my question. If on a scale of 1 to 10 or a percentage, how much do you think?
Have you been to Ferny Close?
My question, yes, I have. I was on the site visit.
Yeah. So how quiet was it? What acoustic reading did you get then?
I didn't ask you that. I'm asking your opinion.
Well, I'm asking you, how quiet was it?
I'm sorry.
Very quiet, wasn't it?
Mr. Simons, please. Okay, this isn't an argument. This is a committee meeting. I won't have it. Turn your mic off, please.
It's a green one.
Yeah, just the middle one. Thank you. Councillor Jones is going to ask a question, and it's your turn to answer the question. It's not for you to challenge a committee member in here. Please, let's do it right, and let's get your questions answered, all right?
Yeah.
Councillor Jones.
The question is quite straightforward. You already said there's an issue. You did say shouting, swearing, etc. I'm asking your opinion of how much that volume will increase by if the skate ramp goes ahead. That's the question I'm asking.
Well, I'm not an expert on that, but any increase in noise is not what the residents of Fernie Close want. And why should he have it when it's a totally unsuitable place for it?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jamil.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Just give us an idea of the usage at the moment. Who uses it? What age group? What do they do at the moment?
Well, a lot of it depends on the weather. This last week, half-term week, the park, it was used quite a bit, and there was about last Tuesday afternoon, lovely afternoon like this, there was about 15, 16 youths playing football in there, no problems at all. They were quite happy, there was not much noise, but you get a skate ramp in there thumping away with bikes, skateboards, roller skates or whatever, and the attitude they'll have, it's just going to be totally unacceptable.
Chair, if I can just ask just another. So the football pitch is one, but then there's other smaller facilities around there. Are they used as well?
They are, yes, quite a lot, especially with the younger, smaller peoples, and we get quite a few in the summertime when the weather's nice. Okay, the young ones come straight out of Newborough School, which is up to 11 years old, and they go in there and they often have a picnic in the field, play there, and really enjoy it. And I think this will be totally affected by a generation of older youths in there.
Okay, anybody else got any further questions at all for Mr. Richards? No? Thank you, Mr. Richards. Thank you very much. It's time to ask any questions of officers. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. The height of the ramp at one end, obviously there's an issue about the distance and the noise. What difference would it make to someone's visibility? Is this gentleman's garden overlooked? Can he be looked into? What's the implications of that? How tall you need to be to interrupt his privacy?
Yes, so the ramp itself is at 1.5 metres, so you'll be able to stand at the top of this area on here. The railings obviously then add another metre in height, but it's a 1.5 metre difference, but that would be 33 metres from the neighbour's boundary, so there are no significant concerns for overlooking or loss of privacy to that amenity space.
Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to Councillor Jones's, mine's is more about the noise. So do you think or believe that there would be an increased impact of noise rather than someone standing on ground level to standing up on the platform, and as was said earlier about swearing or shouting, would that affect residents, and would that amplify, say, the noise?
So the introduction of the skate ramp will obviously add some level of noise to the playfield. Obviously the acoustic report has covered the difference, taken into account a background level of noise from existing play provision that's there and the difference between sort of cars moving around elsewhere surrounding the site. So that background noise has been looked at alongside the contribution that the skate ramp might create. Within that acoustic report, they found that it was within the appropriate levels of below or within that area of 55 decibels, which meets the guidance. There was the provision or a suggestion for adding a screen at the top of the ramp to try and mitigate any noise from that higher level. However, the difference between those calculations was minimal, and it was considered that it was better to not include that ramp, so not to create an enclosure and possibly lead to antisocial behaviour. Within that acoustic report as well, there was also a diagram at the end which illustrated the potential noise and how it can travel to those neighbouring properties, looking at the harm or the volume, shall I say, towards the closer you go to number 18, number 20 and beyond. And again, that was all within 55 decibels of that external noise level.
Thank you, Chair. So the measurements for noise were taken from where the ramp potentially would be. Because this is a skate park, skate ramp, I'm guessing the people, because there's no provision for vehicles or parking, the people would be bringing their skateboards with them, or bikes, etc. So I'm guessing if they are bringing it with them, they would be skating down Fermy Close, or was any sort of consideration given to an impact of noise from people skating on the footpath?
So the acoustic report didn't consider in terms of additional footfall on Ferny Close itself. It was all considered and confined to the actual ramp. The assessment was carried out on the basis of 2 people using that ramp consistently for a period of 8 hours over a 16-hour day. So it was at a higher intensity of continuous use. But no, there wasn't any provision for additional bikes or skateboards on the pedestrian routes to the footpath, to the playing field.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just have your thoughts on 2 areas of the report that I've picked up on? The Get Your Skates On, a guide to developing BMX and skate parks in your area, produced in 2005, states, and I completely understand this isn't adopted planning policy, I'm aware of that, but it's good practice that facilities are located no less than 100 metres from the nearest residential property. Now, it does go on to say 30 metres from the property boundary, but the houses are pretty much on the property boundary, and it does advise it's good practice, it says, and these guys know about these things presumably, no less than 100 metres, not 30 or thereabouts. And also the police architectural liaison officer, I think it's a little bit disingenuous to say the police had no, as was cited earlier, no thoughts about it. They do say that these skate parks, and I'll sort of précis, can attract an older age group, even from nearby villages without the facilities, and later gatherings with the resulting noise and possible ASB, as has been touched on by Councillor Simons, particularly during the lighter summer evenings. What are your thoughts about those 2 specific areas in the report?
Yes, so the pollution control looked at the initial application, and in terms of the guidance that they've used, they have referenced Get Your Skates On quite heavily in their comments because it provides those specifics in terms of distances and noise levels. From initially reviewing that, that's when the acoustic report was requested, in order to provide a more sort of accurate or site-specific assessment in terms of what that ramp might generate for the neighbouring properties in particular. And those properties, the locations of assessment were on the boundary of number 18, the boundary of number 20. So it was looking at those properties that are in the closest proximity. And they didn't have any concerns in terms of the compliance once we've had that acoustic report, because it demonstrates it can achieve those appropriate noise levels for the external environment and modelled from the internal bedrooms as well. In terms of the police comments, whilst there is the possibility they're suggesting that there will be later gatherings and resulting in noise and antisocial behaviour, we wouldn't necessarily restrict provision for a skate ramp on the basis of the potential for antisocial behaviour if it's considered sufficient. So within this application, we've looked at whether landscaping should be low level and not creating screens. As I mentioned before, the suggestion within the acoustic report to put a screen at the top of the ramp, again, we've ruled that out on the basis that it's still acceptable noise level, and we want to prevent as much antisocial behaviour as possible. And again, the location of this skate ramp has a degree of natural surveillance from those properties that are nearby. So again, nearby residents will be able to sort of see the skate ramp, and again, that's likely to deter people from acting in that way.
Thank you for that comprehensive response. We've heard from the parish council the residents may very well see antisocial behaviour, but the police presence in Newborough is zip. So our chances of a rapid response are probably fairly remote. So what you're saying, again, just to condense what you've said about the noise, there will be noise, there will be noticeable noise, it's just at an acceptable level, in your opinion. So extra noise, but just at an acceptable level.
Yes, so it's done through the acoustic report, which has proven that, and it's from myself and the Pollution Control Department.
Would you mind if I quickly jump in there, just ask another question of you, and that is the acoustic report. Can you just clarify, is that the noise expected from the activity, but does that include the noise from children, effectively the noise that children make?
So it's modelled on the basis of the activity, so it would be 2 people using sort of equipment, so skateboards or bikes and things like that on the ramp for a continuous period. That's how it was modelled. But it does take into account the effect of background noise as well. So people being in the playing field or playing already, and the impact that may already have in reducing the noise effect to those neighbouring properties. So the effect of children playing hasn't specifically been considered on the ramp, but the use of the equipment has been considered in that acoustic report.
Who else had the hand up? Councillor Sharp.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just in line with the discussions around noise, if it was an industrial operation on the boundary that was in the vicinity, and we're measuring that at the boundary of the properties, what would be the guidance level we'd be working to there?
It would be a completely different assessment. So I don't have that off to hand. We would again have to have an acoustic report and assess the impact of that neighbouring property.
I'm going to ask another question. I can't see any more hands up at the moment. Councillor Hiller brought something up that's down for me. He stole my thunder with that. That Skate UK said 100 metres is recommended. And Get Your Skates On was the 55 dB, I guess. Should be below that. Why does one trump the other? Is that the pollution report effectively just made that decision? I mean, why would Skate UK say that and we effectively would go with Get Your Skates On? Just wondered.
So Get Your Skates On provides both the distance and the decibel level, which is what has been heavily referenced in the pollution control comments. My understanding is that because it includes both areas of a noise level and a distance, is why it's been referenced the most by pollution control. But the acceptability of the 30-metre distance has been led by the acoustic report as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hussain.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if this was asked earlier. You mentioned about the equipment level being used for the report as a guide. And it was just the equipment being used. So on top of the equipment, you'll have people talking, laughing, as mentioned, swearing or whatever. But that would then add to the noise from, I would consider. Is that right? But you're saying that they've only considered it with just the level of equipment on the ramp and no one talking or shouting, etc.
So from my understanding, it was done on the equipment, but I don't have the full technical knowledge to go through the report, so I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of pollution control. But from my conversations with them, they were happy once they had the acoustic report in terms of the minimum distance being met and the noise levels.
Anyone else? Councillor Hogg.
I would presume that the orientation of the equipment also has a bearing insofar as that with the scoop, any noise that was made in the kind of the bottom, as it were, would go outwards rather than across, because you've got the scoop that would scoop the sound sort of upwards rather than along, if you get my meaning. So the noise will come, the noise will emanate from the structure to the sides more than to the ends. Would that be a correct assessment?
Again, I don't have the technical assessment of that, but what the acoustic report has looked at is the current location and how it's orientated rather than any proposed alternatives.
Anybody else with questions, or we'll go to debate? No other questions? Okay, then we'll go to debate. Who would like to open the debate? Councillor Hogg.
Okay. So, talking as a councillor, we've got a skate park in my ward, that has had, shall we say, a checkered past in terms of antisocial behaviour. That said, we got rid of a shelter that was attached to the side of the skate park, and the vast majority of antisocial behaviour has now gone away, and the kind of the users of the skate park have been able to claim back that facility for skating, and we've found that that the local community, a lot of positive feedback from the community about the removal of that shelter that was to the side. And I think that may be one of the issues that, that skate parks, it's like, you could put a bench in the middle of a field somewhere and it's going to attract antisocial behaviour because they've got somewhere to sit. That I don't think that particularly the skate park itself is, for those people that are there to skate and those people that are there to practice their hobby or what have you, BMX or skateboards or roller skates, are there to enjoy themselves and are very genuine people. And I think we need to commend the parish council for their efforts in basically going to the youth of their village and saying to them, what do you want us to provide? What do you want us to put there for you? And we will make it happen. And this is exactly what they've done. They've gone to a lot of expense of trying to get this designed and gone through all the over the hurdles, etc., to get this achieved. This is a play area. It's always been a play area, and presumably it always will be a play area for this area. So, the fact that you've got people playing football on a pitch. I've yet to see a game of football that has been very quiet, if I'm being honest with you. There's always people shouting at each other and asking for the ball or demonstrating about the fact that someone has had a hard tackle or what have you. Far more than a rugby game, but I digress. So and again with the I remember back when my daughter was using the kind of the play equipment type thing. She definitely had probably acorns and oak trees. She certainly created a certain amount of noise just playing on equipment. So I think it's part and parcel of a recreation area that there will be children and young adults. They are going to make a bit of noise, and I think that's well within the scope of what we see here. So I don't think the skate park is going to increase noise levels specifically, and I think the orientation of the skate park has pushed what sound that is going to be making outwards rather than upward and down as per the plan. So from my point of view, I think we should be supporting the parish council in their endeavours to improve the amenity for the young residents of that village. I also think that the fact that there isn't the parking there, that the contention that this is going to be a magnet for antisocial behaviour from the around for miles around. Actually, the Warrington Skate Park and the other skate parks with parking are probably much more likely to do so than this, and I think that they would give it a miss basically. So I'm quite happy to support.
Yes, Councillor Rush.
Point of information for members who weren't there on Friday. I think there is a shelter on the site, but it's not. I don't think it's shown on the drawing there.
You're right, and it isn't.
So it's just for members who didn't go on the visit. There is a shelter there, like we have at Standground, that was taken away, but it's not shown on the plan there.
It's almost exactly where the cursor's been placed, actually. Did you do that on purpose? Oh, sorry, I took your thunder, I'm sorry. Yeah, there is a shelter there, you're right. Yeah. So. We're still in debate, obviously, so you're quite welcome to discuss. This is the whole point. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I think Councillor Rush makes a valid point, because the place where people dwell, where a lot of the ASB issues occur, we have a skate park in our ward, tends to be around, you know, where people are going to sit rather than actually exercise or do it, and that is already there. I'm mindful of Mr. Richards, and you know, I think for me the noise of a park and having an extra facility in the park is offset by, could anybody, if you're raising something up, could anybody see into my garden? And what you've said is that that's highly unlikely. It's going to be about 5 foot in old money, and there's going to be a bun next to it. So I think at this moment, and the only thing I'd like to add is that whilst, you know, I'd wonder about having something in my back garden or close to my back garden, I have to applaud the parish council and the kids for actually raising the money and going ahead with this, and I think I'd like to see that given, you know, brought to life. So I'm minded to agree and follow officer recommendations.
Thank you. Councillor Heller.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think I'm similarly minded, but it is very much an on-balance decision for me. The same as Councillor Jones, I think, you know, would I want it in my back garden, so to speak? Probably not, but I don't necessarily, well, I don't actually have a play area the size of this play area in my back garden or near my back garden. So it is, I think, to a degree, a fear of the unknown, and I completely get and understand and agree with the fact that if this facility was fully occupied, if the football ground itself was level and more active, then you know, screaming and shouting at a football match would be every bit as much as anything, if in fact probably more than a skate facility. It's not a park. It's a skate ramp. I also very sympathetic to the ward councillors' comments on this. It's, you know, we want the facility within the village of Newborough, but we do not want it here. Now, I think we've heard quite clearly the other suggested, and Councillor Simon suggested a couple of alternative venues for this facility, both of which the parish council has no immediate control over. So I think those sites could possibly, well, certainly at this juncture, be discounted. Where do you put this facility? If we all, it appears, we all want this facility, where do you put it other than there? And I think my sympathies with the ward councillor's position are very pronounced. I'm a ward councillor myself in a rural ward. We have a very large facility in the village I live in, open 5-acre open field. Would I want a skate facility there? Actually, yeah, I probably would, actually. I don't see that it would be a particular issue. It's owned by Milton Estate, so they probably wouldn't allow it. But I have sympathy with both sides of this argument, and my inclination, I have to say, Chair, my on balance inclination is to support this application. And I'm very minded by the efforts, as has already been alluded to by Councillor Jones, the efforts of the parish council in creating this facility, the support from, albeit not the immediate residents, but the support from the village generally, it seems to be very heavily weighed in that they do want it here. It's not as if we could offer a temporary consent just to see how it goes, because it's you know, it's quite a weighty installation. It's not on wheels. The comments about ASB, again, I guess to a degree that's fear of the unknown. Will a construction like this encourage antisocial behaviour? I don't know. Who knows? It may not. I mean, that needs to be monitored. It was an interesting comment from the parish councillor about the lack of a police presence. I guess that probably stopped at about the time Councillor Fox retired. You know, it's not prevalent. Police aren't prevalent in the rural villages. And so very much overlooking this site, as has been alluded to by Miss Hood, is very important to highlight any antisocial behaviour. Meandering, Chair, so I apologise. I will support this. It's an on-balance decision for me, but I will support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rush.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, well, in our additional information document today, we had a letter from a young lad, and I quote what he says: "Children of the village, no matter what their age, would like a skate park built in the village." That is from a child within the village, and he said if this doesn't go ahead, there'll be nothing for the older children to do. I understand the residents' concerns about antisocial behaviour and noise. Unfortunately, we can't say that it's actually going to cause antisocial behaviour and noise. So on balance, I will be supporting this application.
Anybody else wish to enter debate or add anything? No. Last chance? No? All right, fair enough. Okay, from my point of view, as we've said, the parish council have done a good thing. They've been out, they've asked the question, you know, and they've listened to the voice of those youngsters. Having said that, I'm not sure, I don't get the feeling that was probably the same until it became a live planning application with the people, the elders, if that's the right word, of the village, who also would have had their say, you know, and we should quite rightly have had their say. And I commend Mr. Richards for coming here today and having his passionate say. You know, he's the nearest, effectively, and has understandable concerns about parking, ASB, noise. You couldn't say that wasn't there. You know, at the end of the day, it's we'd all probably feel the same, that we would be concerned that could be a problem. The children as well went out, as we were told, they went out their way to fundraise to help fund this and other equipment, no doubt. And that's a great thing. And one would hope that from a policing point of view, that it becomes a self-policing thing, because if you get buy-in by the local youth, you tend to find, certainly for a while, in the group that you've got at the moment, the generation you've got at the moment, tend to try and protect a little bit more. What happens in the future, obviously, you don't know. So I totally understand where Mr. Richards is coming from. You couldn't not understand his concerns. But again, listening, you know, and I understand where the councillors are coming from, the ward councillors coming from. But listen to what the police have said. I mean, at one point the police were talking about lighting, which I'm glad we never went anywhere near that, because I definitely wouldn't have gone near that. And we've had the question answered about the amount of noise pollution that there would be, and we have to effectively listen to the experts. That's what they're here for, and they're telling us that the noise assessment it's acceptable, normal use. I'm not going to make any excuses other than that. I'm not going to say, well, there's already something there. We know there's something there, and children will make a noise. It's a play park, so you wouldn't want to stop that. It's children having enjoyment. We moan at them sitting at home playing on games all the time. Why wouldn't they want to be out? But that's not in any way knocking the fact that Mr. Richards, etc., and other people have got problems or real concerns. It is quite rightly, as Councillor Hill and others have said, it's an on-balance decision. And in my case, I will be supporting this application. Anybody else? Can I go for a proposal at all at this point? Anybody wish to propose? Councillor Jones?
I'd like to propose that we go with...
Could you... Sorry, Mike.
If that was switched on. I propose that we do go with officer recommendations and approve, please.
Do you have a seconder, Councillor Hogg? Yes? So you've got a proposal and a seconder, so we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? It is a unanimous decision. Thank you very much. So the application is approved. Thank you. Okay, that basically brings the meeting to an end. I'd like to thank everybody for coming along today. I think we've had some really good and serious debate, and I thank you for that. I think whatever the decisions, people like, whether they get what they want or not, at least they can't say it wasn't debated, and we didn't at least listen and try and come to the right conclusion. Thank you to all the councillors, thank you to officers, thank you for Democratic Services for your support, and the legal officer and highways who got away lucky today. So you were lucky. So thanks very much. See you again in probably about a month or so's time. Towards the end of March, I guess, will be the next one. And if not, I'll see you tonight or tomorrow at full council, wherever. Thanks very much.